So welcome to today's episode. Today I'm going to tell you the 3 biggest misconceptions that people who come to Costa Rica to live here have about this country, about everyday living, and what they are, just so if you're thinking about moving here, you know ahead of time. So here we go. Number one is that it's cheap. A lot of people think that living in Costa Rica is going to be cheap. They think that the cost of food, rent, all of that, usually this comes from what they've seen in movies, on TV, but they think it's going to be cheap, and it's the complete opposite. Living in Costa Rica, I will tell you, it's very expensive. Food is expensive. The electricity is especially expensive. Getting a car here is incredibly expensive, but it's a lot more expensive than many other Latin American countries. One of the biggest reasons why is because to get stuff into the country, you got to pay a lot of taxes. For example, you find one of these resellers that sell these laptops and you're probably going to pay 20, 30, 40% what you might pay if you went to an Apple store somewhere in the USA or in, say, Hong Kong or Singapore or somewhere in Asia. You're going to pay a lot more here, and that's because to get electronics into the country, you're paying a lot of taxes. For example, if I want to order something from Amazon, this little microphone you see me using, this is a Sennheiser microphone cable, and this is about 140 bucks. I know, because I just had to order a new one. I broke my last one. But to get it into the country, I've got to order it from a store and get it to Miami. I use a service that has a place in Miami. You send all your stuff there, and then they get it through customs and into Costa Rica, and they also help with the taxes. But for example, for this, at about 140 bucks, I'm going to pay about $30 on top of that just in the taxes alone. So I don't know what percentage that is, but to get electronics into this country and just everything virtually, you pay a lot of taxes. That's why the cost is so much higher here. Even if you want to buy a car, when you buy the car brand new, you're going to pay a lot more than you would, say, in the USA. But on top of that, they have something called Marchamo, which is like a compulsory government insurance you have to have for all cars in Costa Rica. And it's based on the value of your car. So if you have a luxury car, let's say you're driving a car and it's 40 grand or 50,000 US dollars, which would be a nice car here. But if that's what it's worth, brand new, don't be surprised if you're paying well over $1,000 in the Marchamo. I know what I pay to have my vehicle here for the hotel, and this is a more expensive transport vehicle, but it's in the thousands every year. It's quite ridiculous. Now, if you have an average car that's less than $20,000, your Marchamo might be a few $100s per year. It really depends on the value. But there's all these extra costs that you've got to be aware of before you come here. Don't come here thinking that you're going to survive on, say, 500 US dollars a month for one person and live comfortably. It's just not going to happen. If you want to live well, so you want to have air conditioning on all the time, which in many parts of the country you will need. If you want to eat well, if you want to go out a few times a week and eat in the nice restaurants in the tourist towns, etc., I would say that for one person, you would easily need over $1,000 a month. Easily. More would be ideal. And if you have over $1,500 a month to spend on yourself, all your living expenses, then you can live reasonably well. The next biggest misconception that people have when they move here is they think Costa Rica as a whole is incredibly safe. Now, don't get me wrong, it generally is quite safe. Generally it is. Most of the time, if you're living in, say, San Jose, or you're living in a tourist town like Jaco, most of the time you're going to be fine. You got nothing to worry about. However, crime does happen. Now, the biggest crime that happens here is petty theft. So for example, if you leave your car parked on a beach, a popular beach, and then you come out, sit on the beach, the tide's going out, and you leave your car up there for an hour, and if you are silly enough to leave anything remotely valuable sitting on a car seat, don't be surprised if you come back and a window smashed. It happens very often here, and if you report it to the police, nothing's going to get done. A petty theft is very common. There has been an increase over the years in more violent crimes like home invasions. They are still quite rare, but they do happen, and I can tell you that from direct experience. They do happen, and when you've lived here for a number of years, you do hear things about it happening. So for example, where I am, I'm in Asturias, I've heard about multiple cases of people being in their homes or not at their home, but having break-ins, things like that happen. So you just have to use your common sense, and when you come here, don't have your guard down thinking that it's this paradise where there's no crime. Crime doesn't exist. From all the marketing you see from the tourism, it might appear that way, but there is some crime here. So just be aware of it, be a little bit cautious. The third biggest misconception that people have relates to building. Let's say that you want to do a renovation, or you found this beautiful plot of land and you've got this really amazing view of the beach and it's up on a mountain. This is very common where people will buy a plot of land, but they won't do their due diligence and make sure that they can develop on it. So for example, here, and I'm not an expert in this area, but I've done a renovation before, which took about a year with a hotel. But I'll tell you that before you can even start the renovation, you need something called a water letter. So you need to make sure that you can get water onto that property. I've heard of many cases where people will buy a plot of land and they don't check that they can get this simple thing, the water letter, and they have to sit on that land for more than a decade. They can't develop it. They can't get the other permits that come after the water letter, and they can't do any construction because of this simple thing that they didn't check. Now, if you have a good real estate attorney, someone who's got experience in these matters, then that's going to help a lot. And every time you go and buy land or you want to do a renovation, my advice to you is go and hire a professional and make sure they do all these checks. Don't try and deal directly with the buyer yourself. Certainly don't send the money to the buyer yourself. Find a good escrow agent and, again, your attorney who ideally specializes in real estate transactions. They should have all of those connections. So I hope it doesn't sound like I'm trying to talk you out of coming to Costa Rica. These are just some common misconceptions that you ought to be aware of. And there's quite a few other ones. If you want to find out what they are and just educate yourself on them before you come here, go to movingtocostarica.com. This is a website that I put together, and I find all these various experts in different topics like real estate, getting residency, just in general living here. And I have them write content. They write really up-to-date, informative articles, and you can get access to all of it for free by going to movingtocostarica.com. All right, that's it from me today. I'm gonna wrap this up. This is a sunset here on Asturias Beach. I am fast running out of light. Appreciate you watching. Please do me a favor, if you like this content, subscribe, because I'm gonna be putting out new daily episodes moving forward. So thanks so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.